The events that unfolded during World War II are often shrouded in stories of bravery and heroism, but lurking beneath the surface are darker tales that haunt the pages of history. One such story involves the Marocchinate, a horrific chapter that speaks of unimaginable suffering and betrayal. While soldiers fought valiantly on the front lines, countless innocent lives were torn apart in the shadows. The victims, caught in the chaos, faced brutal realities that many would rather forget. What drove this tragedy? Why do some stories remain buried in silence while others are brought to light? As we delve deeper into this unsettling event, prepare to uncover truths that might leave you questioning the very nature of humanity. The history you thought you knew may just be the tip of the iceberg. Historical context and the Allied invasion. In 1944, Italy was a key battleground in the war, with Allied forces, including the French colonial Goumiers from North Africa, pushing through German defenses. The Italian campaign had become a brutal struggle, particularly at the heavily fortified Gustav Line, which blocked the Allies' path to Rome. The Allied strategy culminated in the fierce battles around Monte Cassino, a critical stronghold in the Gustav Line, defended by German troops. After several failed assaults and immense losses, the Allies launched Operation Diadem in May 1944. This operation brought together a multinational force, including American, British, and French units. But it was the French Expeditionary Corps, FEC, particularly the Moroccan Goumier, who played a decisive role. Under the command of General Alphonse Juin, these light mountain troops excelled in the rugged terrain, known for their ability to move swiftly across steep, difficult landscapes where other forces struggled. The Goumiers spearheaded the assault through the Atrocities Mountains, which had been considered impassable. Their relentless night attacks and their mastery of guerrilla-style warfare shattered the German defenses, allowing the Allies to breach the Gustav Line and begin their advance towards Rome. Their contribution was crucial, and General Mark Clark of the U.S. Fifth Army praised their aggressive tactics that forced the Germans into retreat. This victory directly led to the liberation of Rome in June 1944. However, the Goumiers' military success came with dark consequences. As they advanced through Italy, they were involved in the Marocchinate, where thousands of civilians, including women and children, were raped and brutalized by the troops. This remains a controversial and tragic aspect of the campaign. This pivotal breakthrough in Monte Cassino was a turning point in the Italian campaign, but it also set the stage for the atrocities that followed. Mass sexual violence and atrocities. Following the German surrender at Monte Cassino in May 1944, a wave of mass sexual violence and atrocities swept through the Lazio region, particularly in Ciociaria, committed by the Goumiers, Moroccan colonial troops under French command. These troops, who had played a critical role in breaking through the German defenses, soon became infamous for the brutal aftermath that followed. The term Marocchinate refers to the mass rapes and crimes committed by these soldiers, and estimates suggest over 3,000 people were raped, with some reports even placing the number much higher, including women, young girls, elderly men, and even boys. Entire villages were terrorized as the Goumiers rampaged through the countryside, using rape as a weapon to assert dominance and humiliate local populations. In places like Asperia, around 700 women were assaulted, nearly a third of the village's population. The assaults were so widespread that they left many victims with severe physical and psychological scars, and many were murdered or gravely injured during the attacks. This violence went beyond individual atrocities. It was systemic, reflecting the lack of accountability and possibly the tacit approval of higher-ranking officers, who allowed the Goumier to act without consequence. Though some soldiers were tried for their crimes, the scale of justice was minimal, with only a small number being executed or imprisoned. For many survivors, the trauma of these events would last a lifetime, while others received minimal or no compensation, as both France and Italy struggled with diplomatic tensions following the war. The role of leadership. The role of leadership during the aftermath of Monte Cassino, particularly that of French General Alphonse Juin, has long been a subject of controversy. Many historians point to rumors that Juin may have given the Goumiers, Moroccan colonial troops, free rein for 50 hours over the newly conquered territories in Lazio. The claim is that this order was an unspoken nod, allowing the soldiers to do as they pleased without fear of consequences, a catastrophic failure in military leadership. Although there is no definitive proof of this order, the allegations are hard to dismiss. The idea that Juin or other French officers might have condoned or turned a blind eye to the violence is supported by the fact that few soldiers were ever brought to justice for the atrocities. In a time of war, leadership is not just about strategy on the battlefield, but also about controlling the conduct of troops, especially after victory. Juin's alleged tacit approval may have been seen as a reward for the Goumiers' bravery in combat, but it resulted in horrific crimes committed against innocent civilians. Some argue that even if Juin didn't give an explicit order, his failure to ensure discipline in his ranks fostered a dangerous environment. The breakdown in leadership created a culture where the soldiers felt they could act without repercussions, leading to the mass rapes, violence, and terror that swept through the region. Leadership in war isn't just about military victories. It's about safeguarding the lives of civilians, ensuring discipline, and holding soldiers accountable for their actions. Victim stories. The atrocities committed by the Goumiers after the fall of Monte Cassino left scars that many victims carried for the rest of their lives. Harrowing testimonies tell the human story behind these war crimes. One of the most tragic accounts is that of Father Alberto Terilli, a local priest. He was not only raped by Goumiers, but later died from the injuries he sustained during the assault. His death became a symbol of the brutal violence that spared no one, not even members of the clergy. Women, too, faced unimaginable horrors. In Don Alberto's congregation, hundreds of women were attacked, some as young as 12 and as old as 86. These assaults were not random acts, but targeted violence intended to break the spirit of the community. Families were ripped apart, with daughters and mothers being taken away by soldiers, some never to return. In one testimony, a woman recalled trying to defend her younger sister from the attackers. One of the most haunting aspects of these stories is the sheer scale. It's estimated that over 3,000 rapes were committed in a matter of days. Survivors spoke of being humiliated in public, dragged through the streets, and attacked in front of their children. Men were also victims. Some tried to protect their wives and daughters, only to be beaten or killed. In other cases, young boys were assaulted, adding another level of trauma to the already devastated communities. These personal stories give faces and names to the statistics. Aftermath and justice. The aftermath of the atrocities in Lazio, known as the Marocchinate, was a painful chapter that continued to affect victims long after the war ended. The Italian government did launch investigations into the violence committed by Goumier troops, but justice was elusive. While a few perpetrators were brought to trial, many crimes went unpunished. The lack of accountability, coupled with the chaos of post-war Europe, meant that most of the soldiers involved were never held responsible for the suffering they caused. Communities in the Lazio region were forever scarred. The physical and emotional wounds remained long after the war ended. Families were broken, and the memories of the atrocities haunted the region. If you've found this historical content informative and want to learn more about untold stories like these, make sure to subscribe to our channel. There's much more to uncover.